We've seen it once, now we see it twice. See as wow, another dev praises Stadia over consoles? Yes, that's right. It's SDO Daily, baby. Let's get into it.
I'm not sorry. Stay sick cause I follow my gut. They say I was pushing my luck. I'ma push me a matte all black truck. Oh, I'm not sorry.
What's up, people? What's up, people? What's up, people? It's your boy MM2K back again with another episode of the SDO Daily. On behalf of the Stadia Dosage, do me a huge favor before we get into this one. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and rock those bells for notifications, please, so you know when we are dropping these doses for you here on Stadia Dosage. As I always say, we appreciate y'all very much. You know the slogan. You're not too proud to ask. Let's get into it. All right, y'all. Now, here's the funny thing. All right. There's been a string of all this Stadia, we gotcha reports coming out there, right? That, cover things like Stadia got rid of their developers. So now Journey to the Savage Planet can't get fixed, to how Stadia handle Q&As, to now this lawsuit that claims Stadia lied to us. Stadia lied to us, and there is no 4K 60, and all this other stuff. Now I looked at at parts of the lawsuit, and it reminds me of a lawsuit that was there against PlayStation with Killzone Shadowfall. For those of you that have been gaming long enough or old enough, y'all remember that, right? At the beginning of the PlayStation 4 generation, people were mad because the original resolution tagged to the game from Sony was 1080p 60, but to come to find out it was like 720 or something like that, and it was an upscale resolution, and people felt robbed and gypped and all this other stuff. Meanwhile, fast forward years later, upscale or dynamic resolution is the way to go to make sure that you can maintain a good balance of fidelity and frame rates, right? But that's here nor there. That's a whole nother SDO Daily. With that being said, people were upset. They filed a lawsuit. Judge threw it out. I'm looking at this thing, and from what I could see, and with my personal experience in the Fortune 500 world, dealing with certain things like that, particularly class action lawsuits as well. Yes, I wore many hats. That's all I can say, but I wore many hats. I don't see this thing going far. But again, that's just my thoughts. I don't have any evidence, or I don't have a crystal ball rather to say one way or the other, but those are just my thoughts from what I could see in my experience. But here's the thing though, with the whole 4K 60 thing, and that relates to this story. When Stadia talked about 4K, they've always talked about, hey, the apex of the resolution that you're going to see here will come once we get better efficient codecs. Yes, we have 10.7 teraflops of power. And yes, Digital Foundry confirmed that. But for you, the end user, the best way for you to get that raw power is when we get the codecs that are balanced enough with bandwidth and with fidelity. At launch, we had the H.264 codec, which isn't the most efficient. As time went on, we got the VP9 codec, which is way more efficient and better looking, and why we got games like Division 2 looking buttery crisp on Stadia, right? And now they're supposedly working on AV1, and that's supposed to be coming soon. So this is a marathon, not a sprint. It's going to take time for that 4K to look to pop even more, and so forth. And Stadia talked about this at GDC 2019, IO 2019. I urge all of the naysayers or the people that aren't embedded in the facts to go check those two videos out. You'll walk away satisfied and happy and knowing that you've just been educated. But with all that said, it's a marathon, not a sprint. However, even though that's what we, the end users, the gamers, are talking about right now, the developers themselves are seeing versions or iterations of Stadia that are talking to what Stadia said or what Google said are going to happen with the platform. For instance, there was a conversation that we covered on broadbandbullies.com between a developer that wanted to remain anonymous, and our friends at Nerd Nest, Bill, Run Jump Stomp on Twitter, and Dasmy, our good friend Lloyd of the Stadia Cast podcast. And that developer that wanted to remain anonymous said, hey, look, we've seen future iterations of Stadia. And I'm telling you, we're running our game on a future iteration of Stadia, and that game is running better than what it runs on the Xbox Series X, which is currently tagged as the world's most powerful console. Now, what developer that is and when we expect to see that game, we don't know at this point in time. But that was the first signal that developers are looking at future iterations of Stadia, and they're like, whoa! Now we have another. This come to us courtesy our good friends at stadiasource.com. You know how we do. Let me show you something. Okay, so this is a Q&A from our good friends at Stadia Source with the developers of the game Hellpoint, which is also coming to Stadia. It's described as like an RPG Souls-like from what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing. Very interesting looking game, and the developers is Cradle Games. And they sat down, our friends at Stadia Source sat down with Marc-Andre Jutras, president and programmer at Cradle Games, and they did an interview with him. So here is one particular point of the interview that I thought was very telling, and again, attaches to the fact that what Stadia has been saying all along. Yes, our hardware at this iteration has certain capabilities, but it's a process that's going to be staggered, you know what I'm saying, as far as fidelity is concerned. But there's just certain things that we have that are far more beneficial than a Daddy device box in your house. The developer that talked to Nerd Nest said that, and now these developers are saying that. But with no further ado, let me tell you what they say specifically. The question from Stadia sources: how will the Stadia version of Hellpoint compare to its console and PC counterparts in terms of graphics and performance? The answer from Cradle Games. Like mentioned, the Stadia build is very fluid with some quite fast loading time. We passed the 4K 60 frames per second certification without any problem. The Stadia hardware is quite on par with some of the best PC gaming hardware one can build right now. Even the current console generation has a little edge on loading time. Technology PC will soon have as well. They are not in the same league though when it comes to CPU and GPU raw horsepower. It makes sense when you think about it. Your console is in a small box that lives near your TV. It cannot draw hundreds and hundreds of watts of power. However, the Stadia hardware and a server rack with all the cooling and power delivery of such systems can go way above. Oh my. So with all that said, folks, again, I know that there's a history of a whole bunch of shots being taken at Stadia, a whole bunch of bibble babble, a whole bunch of untruths, and it's hard to untether yourself from that if you're not part of the broader Stadia community, where sources like Stadia Source always are digging for the truth to give it to you, to bring truth to light despite all the rhetoric that's out there. I get it. It's hard. And you say to yourselves, why would all of these entities do this, knowing that it's unfactual? Because they can get you to click on it. It's as simple as that. We've already been through the gambit of it with other stories of Stadia this week, and it's just going to be a never-ending tale. That is until you again untether yourself from all of their rhetoric and their lies, and understand that the mainstream gaming media, for the most part, they are not deep-rooted in facts when it comes to this platform. For some reason, they don't feel like it's a necessity. And if you feel like it's a necessity for you to have a better understanding so you know what purchasing decision you need to make, I seriously urge you to, again, shy away from them when it comes to all matter Stadia. You can go to places like our good friends over at Stadia Source. You can go to places like Cloudy with a Chance of Games. There's a bunch of other places. Hey, look, despite the fact that they did a little janky stuff earlier this week, I even urge you to go to our friends at 9 to 5 Google. Those are all great sources for the most part to get a lot of your Stadia news, including coming here as we break down the news and give you our thoughts of what's happening with Stadia Daily. And with that said, that's it from your boy MM2K. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below, because like I always say, who cares what I think? But if you did like what I had to say, check out the links below to follow me. Those links will lead you to the Broadband Bullies, PTS Network, Hard Knock Digital Culture, and yes, the Stadia Dosage. With all that said, thank you so much. You have a wonderful gaming day. Peace.